Good afternoon. Welcome to the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners meeting for Tuesday, April 27, 2021. It is 2 p.m. My name is Ty Manser, Chair of the Board. We have Vice Chair Commissioner Gary Edwards, Commissioner Carolina Mejia, County Manager Amiro Chavez, and Assistant County Manager Robin Campbell, along with some guests for today's proclamations and agenda items. Calling the meeting to order, and we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Commissioner Mejia.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We would also like to start today with the land acknowledgement. We would like to acknowledge the indigenous Salish peoples who have lived on and cared for the land and waterways of this county since time immemorial, and who still inhabit the area today, specifically the Squaxin Island, Nisqually, and Chehalis people, our sovereign tribal partners. I would entertain a motion regarding today's agenda.
Yes, I would move to approve the Tuesday, April 27th, 2021 agenda.
Commissioner Mejia, can you turn on your mic?
Second.
Got it. Been moved and seconded. County Manager, are we doing roll call today?
Yes.
Okay, I'll call for the vote.
Aye.
Commissioner Edwards?
Aye.
Commissioner Menzer?
Aye. Motion carries. And now I would entertain a motion regarding board meeting minutes from April 20th, 2021.
I would move to approve the board minute meetings from April 20th, 2021.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Mejia?
Aye.
Commissioner Edwards?
Aye.
Commissioner Menzer?
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Meeting minutes are approved from April 20th, 2021. That takes us to presentations. We have two today. The first is a proclamation for Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And I will let the county manager introduce this topic. And I know we have guests.
Yep.
Respect to that.
Thank you, commissioners. This particular celebration was first celebrated for 1 week under President Jimmy Carter, and then expanded to a month by President George W.H. Bush, which he signed into law in 1992. May commemorates the first known arrival of a Japanese immigrant into the United States, which is May 7, 1847. Washington State has been home to generations of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders for more than 200 years, contributing greatly to the government, business, arts, science, medicine, education, and military. Asian Americans and Pacific Islander Heritage Month is marked by deeply rooted history, including both proud and painful chapters of our history. This proclamation is not only timely, but rightfully so, as we have seen aggressions across the country against our members of our Asian community. I believe today we have members of our Asian community that will like to address the board, and also the board will have the opportunity to read this proclamation and make your own statements. So I will go to the Zoom meeting and I will call your name. And if you'd like to address the board on this particular proclamation, you're welcome. Mr. Kylei Kawanoi, if I pronounce right, sorry.
Thank you for the valiant effort. My name is Kylei Kawanoi. I'm the chair of the Washington State Asian Pacific Islander Caucus. And yes, we were talking about the origins of this bill. It was originally meant to commemorate the anniversary of the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad and the first immigration of Japanese immigrants. But our rich diversity adds so much more to the wonderful tapestry of America. The term Asian Pacific Islander encompasses all of the Asian continent and the Pacific island chains of Melanesia, Micronesia, and Polynesia. In short, 50 countries and over 20 island domains that contribute 2,339 languages to the choir of humanity. Our cultures, cuisines, art, perspectives, and beliefs add to the beauty and richness of America. Sadly, these blessings of diversity have meant adversity for many of us in terms of racism we face in search of our place in America. Racism in housing, employment, healthcare, access to healthcare, and other factors that affect our well-being, our American dream. And this was before the 150% increase in hate crimes against the Asian Pacific Islander community, largely due to the xenophobic and particularly xenophobic rhetoric of the previous president. Words matter. These words matter, both the words in this proclamation and the previous proclamation about racism being a public health crisis. Words matter, not only to counter the sting of racist scapegoating, but because representation matters, because we matter. And so I would like to thank our Thurston County Board of County Commissioners for this not just timely, but necessary for healing proclamation. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go through the Zoom screen. I'll give you the floor if you'd like to provide some comments related to this proclamation. Ms. Lynn Crowley.
Hi, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to address the board, but also to help celebrate this proclamation that is passed by the Thurston County. My name is Lynn Crowley, and I am one of the co-chairs of the Asian Pacific Islanders Coalition South Puget Sound chapter. I'm really glad to have an opportunity to see many familiar faces here, and also all the commissioners. Since Keoki has already shared a lot of the information about, how API is really able to endure so many of the past discriminations and biases and still come out strong. I just wanted to add that we continue to want to be a great force of contributing members of this county and this country. And we are not going anywhere else. So we love to be able to really work together with all of you to see how we may be able to make sure that we raise and elevate those of us who may not have had the opportunity to be elevated before. Thank you again for letting us have a voice, and looking forward to working with all of you.
Thank you. Could you please raise your hand if you'd like to provide some comments related to this proclamation this afternoon? And I will call your name. Yeah, Mr. Kelvin Hall. You're muted, sir. Could you unmute yourself?
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Hi, it's an honor to be here today. And I just want to share some personal experience. When I went to school and the teacher say something about Asian issues and they give us the wrong answer. So I raised my hand and corrected because I feel that if I let it go, then people, they will have the wrong perception. So she said that you are the first Vietnamese ever spoken in my class. So from that time, I'm changed myself. I speak up more, and I learned that if I don't do it, then perception will always be not right. And I feel very safe here in Olympia after 30 years stay here. I lately, just last month, and 2 months ago, I went to Shelton, and I saw the blonde woman stand next to their car. Her husband is dark, and they hold the Black American flag. And she smiled to me, so I waved at her. And then I turned around and I look on the side of the street. By my window is a very young, handsome white guy who held a very long gun. And it just so scared that I want to roll up my window, but I afraid that he will look at me instead of look at that couple. And I look at behind them, there is 3 more guy with very long gun. And in front of them, another couple with a long gun too. So that's put me in the fear. I never had them before. I see people wearing gun and police and many times, but I never have that fear. That is the first time I feel unsafe in America. And then a few weeks later, so just about a month ago, I went to downtown, go up to the 4th Avenue Bridge toward the west side. And another guy just passed by me on the left side, and he pointed a shotgun toward my car. And he just laughed. And it doesn't look normal to me. But it's reinforced to me that we are, as an Asian, we are not safe at this moment due to the last administration. The previous president gave the support for the discrimination behavior from the white people. So I hope that we do have this support from this city and from the current administration from Biden, and we can do some changing to make this country would be better. I do have a Japanese friend who in the 50s, and when I asked him about have he ever go back to Japan, he said, no, I am American. Now I know why he always deny he is not Japanese. He's just said that he is American because he don't want to be in the camp like his parents did before. So the history of this country is based on immigration, but may not be safe due to government did not pay attention to this condition, and the effect will be worse. So I hope that we all can do something to make this one better. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is anybody else who would like to provide comments related to this proclamation? Mr. Brian Locke.
Thank you. I'm Brian Locke. I'm also the co-chair of the Asian Pacific Islander Coalition of South Puget Sound with Lynn Crowley. I would like to thank the Board of County Commissioners again for this proclamation, especially in the times that we are in right now. As Kelvin had suggested, there's a lot of anti-Asian hate going on right now. I mean, we can't help but notice it in our neighborhoods. Our families, our relatives are experiencing, exposure to cases of anti-Asian hate, discrimination, intimidation, sometimes vandalism that we hear about among our friends and families, and it is disheartening. I know in Thurston County we have over 150 plus years of Asian Pacific American history that we are very proud of. The Chinese built the railroads. They built the dike at Nisqually. Have a rich business history with the downtown Chinatown in downtown Olympia. And our community can be proud that we were one of the few communities to quell an anti-Chinese riot in the 1880s, thanks to the deputization of Olympia residents. So this community should be proud as being progressive, tolerant, and open to local Asian Pacific Islander businesses and communities. And we'd like to see that continue. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Please raise your hand. No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from commissioners before we read the proclamation? Let's start with Commissioner Mejia.
Yes, thank you so much for coming. I appreciate all of you speaking and being here for this.
Commissioner Edwards?
I think I'll just let it go at reading this proclamation, but thank you all for coming. And I am prepared to do a proclamation when you're ready, sir.
Okay, just a few comments and then I'll cue you up. I also want to thank everyone for being here. These proclamations on the Zoom platform, it's really only meaningful. I mean, we can read them, but to have community members here to share it with us and to provide insight, it just adds immensely to it. So I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. I want to thank the Asian American Pacific Islander community for the contributions to our community. Keoki's words were right on point. I learned that we have 47 county employees who identify as Asian Pacific Islander, and we thank them for their contributions. And I want to thank Mr. Huang for sharing the story, the couple anecdotes that he shared, because when the board of county commissioners passed its racism crisis declaration a month or two ago, I got a lot of reaction to that from people in the community. And, some of the reaction I expected and some of it I didn't. What I expect, I had reactions of, okay, thank you, but a lot more work needs to be done. We're not moving fast enough. I expected that reaction. I had folks that said, we really think this is timely and on target. We appreciate, we think you're doing the right thing. I hoped and expected that. There was some reaction of, we don't think you're doing the right thing. We object to this. And I expected a little bit of that. But the overwhelming reaction I got was of just kind of mystification, frankly. And I did not expect that. I had a lot of people that just, they weren't offended by the notion of a racism crisis. They just didn't really seem to understand it. They asked me quizzically, there's racism in Thurston County? What is this about? I mean, they thought, they might see something on TV that happened in, Minnesota or Charlottesville, but they did not associate that with Thurston County or the state of Washington. They didn't understand what prompted us to take the action that we took. And so I learned from that. And so, it's important that we share these stories about the experiences of our residents and what they experienced. We have all sorts of examples. We had, a Black Student Union student Zoom bombed with racist epithets. Just recently was reported in our newspaper. So I have my ears open in collecting all of these stories because it's important when I speak to citizens, I try to do my part to educate our broader community about what people face. So kind of what this is about, and it means a lot more to have you here sharing those anecdotes. So thank you so much, and Commissioner Edwards, with that, we're ready to read the proclamation.
Yes, this proclamation for Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. Whereas Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month was first celebrated for 1 week by President Jimmy Carter, then expanded to 1 month by President George H.W. Bush, and signed into law in 1992. And whereas the month of May was selected to commemorate the arrival of the first known Japanese immigrant to the United States on May 7th, 1843, and to honor the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad on May 10th, 1869. And whereas Washington State has been home to generations of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders for more than 200 years, contributing greatly to government, business, art, science, medicine, education, and the military. And whereas we acknowledge Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month is marked by deeply rooted history, including both proud and painful chapters in the challenges of institutional and systemic injustices. And whereas this year's theme, Advancing Leaders Through Purpose-Driven Service, focuses on diversity and leadership to advance the AAPI, that's the acronym, community, and speaks to the determination of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders to serve others while working towards inclusion. And whereas Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders have shared their traditions and rich culture while representing their communities through public service for all citizens. And whereas we commit to the recognition of all Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders in Thurston County and the nation, and to providing comprehensive support to this community. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Board of Thurston County Commissioners hereby proclaims May 2021 as Asian American and Pacific Islander Month in Thurston County, and encourages all citizens to celebrate the accomplishments and sacrifices that Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders have made. Adopted this 27th day of April 2021, your Board of County Commissioners.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thanks again, everybody, for being present. We move to our second proclamation for this afternoon. This is a proclamation for Bicycle Commuter Month. And Chris Hawkins from our Public Health and Social Services Department and Bike Commuter Extraordinaire, who's geared up for it right now, is here to present. County Manager?
Chris doesn't need a further introduction. I think he's ready, so go for it, Chris.
All right.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, County Manager, and others here today at the Board of County Commissioners meeting. Happy to speak with you about this proclamation about Bicycle Commuter Month. I think the proclamation language speaks for itself in many ways. I'm going to turn things to Duncan Green from Intercity Transit to speak about the proclamation a bit. He is the coordinator of the Bicycle Commuter Challenge, which has happened every year in Thurston County for more than 30 years. It's a local success story and great events. And this proclamation helps to recognize the valuable contributions that bicycle transportation and really active transportation more broadly have for the health, well-being, and long-term prosperity of our community. Duncan?
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, for the record, my name is Duncan Green, and I'm here representing Intercity Transit and the Thurston County Bicycle Commuter Challenge. So thanks, Thurston County Board of Commissioners, for recognizing our local celebrations of National Bike Month. Yeah, the Bicycle Commuter Challenge, as Chris said, is in its 34th consecutive year, which makes it the longest running bike challenge of its kind that I know of, certainly in our region, if not in the country, which is something to be proud of here in our local community. So nearly 3.5 decades, the Bicycle Commuter Challenge, or BCC, has been encouraging people to use a bicycle for some of their transportation needs instead of driving. Many things have changed in that time. Our local bicycling infrastructure has improved vastly, and the number of people riding bicycles for all reasons has been rising. And well, you don't need me to tell you that there's a lot of change and flux happening right now in terms of everything, including transportation. But many people are working from home. Others are still out of work or can't afford a car. But bicycling remains a lifesaver, either as an affordable means of transportation or as a way to just get outside for physical, mental, and emotional health. For these reasons, we're making the all rides count in the Bicycle Commuter Challenge this year. Doesn't have to just be for transportation as it has historically been. For myself personally, I know that getting out on my bike each day, even if it's only for a half an hour, has really helped me stay connected to my own body and the natural world around me, and has helped me weather the many different challenges of our pandemic year. This year's theme for the BCC is Bicycle for Joy, which was inspired by an art submission in our winter bicycle art contest. The picture, which was drawn by a 7-year-old daughter of an inner-city transit employee, shows a family out for a bike ride and very much enjoying their bikes. And when I showed that picture around to colleagues and supporters of the BCC, their reaction was really universally, yes, we need some joy and levity right now, and that we should use this image for the BCC theme this year, as we have a new theme and graphic every year for our event. Also, the BCC is sponsored by many local and regional businesses and organizations, and we kind of had to put that on hold last year as COVID was just kind of hitting right around the time we were getting all that organized. But many of our sponsors are back on board now. We have 36 sponsors, all contributing discount coupons and prize items, and we're really excited about that. We also have a grand prize in collaboration with Adventure Cycling Association. We have a grand prize of a bicycling vacation, and that's pretty fantastic. So it's easy to participate as an individual or as a member of a team. Thurston County has a team. Just go to bcc.intercitytransit.com to sign up or log into an existing account, and feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. My email is dgreen@intercitytransit.com, and always happy to hear from you if you have any questions or need any help getting on the website or anything like that. So in what I would call a season of cautious optimism, tempered by many unknowns, let's let bicycles bring some joy into our lives now when we really need it. And I just want to say thanks very much to the Board of County Commissioners for this proclamation. And I'm happy to take any questions if there are any.
Thank you, Duncan. Any questions for Duncan or comments? Commissioner here.
No, I have no questions. Duncan, it's good to see you again. And I'm very excited about this. As a staff member, I always looked forward to the Commuter Challenge in May. I'm glad that 4 fun rides are now included. Back in the day, it was just commuting to work, and I might say I kind of failed at that one, but I'm excited that 4 fun rides count this time.
Mr. Edwards.
I guess I would just, Chris Hawkins has been our poster child, if you will, about the whole bicycling program, because he walks the talk, so to speak. But I just want to point out to him, you've got a challenger coming up, Chris, and down at the motor pool in fleet management, you better start paying attention. Somebody might be overtaking you. I'm not going to get into who it is just yet, but I see a bike in and out of there a lot, and one parked there by an office. So I know he's riding. I think he's catching you. So you better
That's
push
great.
a little harder, Chris. So I'm
Glad to hear it.
I'm prepared for a proclamation, sir, when you are.
Okay, thank you, Duncan. Thank you, Chris. Commissioner Mejia, and for the public's benefit, Chris, you don't know this story. In my first year in office, we had a meeting, an evening meeting in Rochester, and Chris was supposed to present something, and Chris commuted to that meeting down at the Rochester Middle School from Olympia, and I thought that was pretty cool. Okay, Commissioner Edwards, ready.
Okay, a proclamation for Bicycle Commuter Month. Whereas bicycle commuting reduces energy consumption, pollution, and congestion, and is one of the most energy efficient forms of transportation ever invented, and is a mode of transportation well suited to urban environments where trips are short in length and overly congested roads are difficult and costly to expand. And whereas bicycling makes people healthier and more productive, prevents chronic diseases through physical activity, and supports physical, emotional, and mental well-being during a pandemic, and whereas Thurston County supports alternatives to inefficient drive-alone trips by building bicycle facilities and participating in the Wheel Options Commute Trip Reduction Campaign, and whereas inner-city transit with sponsors including the Capital Bicycling Club and many area businesses, is hosting the 34th Annual Bicycle Commuter Challenge during the month of May. Now therefore be it resolved, the Board of Thurston County Commissioners hereby proclaims May 2021 as Bicycle Commuter Month in Thurston County. And in recognition of Earth Day, National Bike Month, and Clean Air Month, encourages all citizens to put forth their best effort to reduce single occupant motor vehicle trips, to reduce air pollution, energy consumption, and traffic congestion. Adopted this 27th day of April, 2021, your Board of County Commissioners. Watch out, Chris. Here he comes.
All right, thanks again, Duncan. Okay, that brings us to item 1 for the agenda. Opportunity for the public to address the board. I have 5 names for sign up, and I'll go through the guidelines and then we'll read those names 2 at a time. Between speakers, please allow for sanitation of the microphone and podium. And then we'll go to the Zoom, and public comment can be given by Zoom or conference call, but we'll deal with the in-person first. First, let me go over the guidelines. The Board of County Commissioners welcomes comments from the public at all meetings. There are guidelines governing such comments to ensure they are appropriate and don't take advantage of the fact that most meetings are televised. General speaking guidelines include addressing yourself, introducing yourself, including the area of the county in which you reside. Address the board, not audience or staff. Silence your cell phones. The board will not respond directly to comments, but may respond on an as-needed basis through the county manager follow-up on specific items. Speakers are limited to a total of 4 minutes and may not donate that time to other speakers. Board reserves the right to restrict the person's opportunity to address the meeting for good cause. No comments that are lewd or offensive, inflammatory, defamatory, hateful, or discriminatory in nature. Please be respectful. No outbursts of any kind or commercial comments of such as a promotion of a for-profit business. Similarly, no remarks about pending land use permits or similar matters that could come eventually before the board on appeal. Finally, all materials provided to the county may be considered public records, subject to public release upon request pursuant to the Public Records Act, Chapter 4256 of the RCW. With that, our first speaker is Rennie Storm, and on deck would be Joe Hanna.
Thank you, and I'm glad to be here. It's difficult to hear the Zoom, so I didn't hear all the guidelines. I hope I followed them.
Okay.
And I want to thank you. And I also want to acknowledge our new commissioner, Mejia. It's good to see you and meet you, and you look like you're blossoming.
Ma'am, can you state your name and where you reside in the county for the record, please?
Sure. I am Rennie Storm. I'm PCO for District 179. And what was the other thing I need to?
Where you reside in the county.
I can't hear you. What?
Where do you reside in the county?
Oh, thank you. It's your mask. I reside in Yelm and the outlying areas.
Thank you.
And welcome, Commissioner Mejia. You kind of remind me of the blossoming flowers outside. So, and I think it's important to develop an open mind and willingness to listen as a commissioner, and you know, it's important to develop this for good faith with your constituents, and to listen to both sides of any issue. And it's a challenging thing to do when you have so many opinions coming at you and issues. So good luck in your commission. Now, while I'm on this topic, I would like to say on and for the record, I do visit many county groups, committee groups. I'm getting to know what some of these groups are. Yesterday was the steering committee, and I have been to Ag Advisory Board meetings, and I listened in on the County Finance Committee. Now, the Ag Advisory Board and the steering committee, two very good chairs, and the meetings are very well run. And I would say that for the Ag Advisory Board, the gentleman, I believe his name is, Richard Mankemeyer, seems to know his business when it comes to farming and agriculture and runs a good meeting. Now, the steering committee is a new committee with a new chair, but the Ag Advisory, if he's up for reappointment, I would highly recommend that he's reappointed because he seems to be quite knowledgeable about what he's doing, and he runs a good meeting. Now, what brings me here today, after listening to the budget for the county commissioners, or for the county, the finance committee, a question popped up in my mind about Medic 1 and the budget. And I thought back to the Thurston County Jail debacle. I think we all know about that one back in 2010. And the 3 series bonds that were levied that year to the taxpayers. It seems to me the $45 million from back then, I think that we still have about $29 million left to pay. And I wondered about that. I wondered about, since that jail stood empty for 5 years because they failed to fund the staffing and the operations, that when the Finance Committee was talking about assessing debt on a competitive basis and putting things out to bid, and arbitrage aside, earning interest on it, how are we doing on our ability to pay off that balance now, which is probably close to $29 million? Are we getting close to paying it off yet before assessing more debts to the taxpayers? So I looked at Medic 1 budget, and it appeared to be related to a larger budget demand, partly due to population and emergency calls, the increase in population and the increase in calls. Is that my time up?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I misjudged my time.
Robin?
I would be more than happy to receive her questions and prepare a response, if she would like to leave them with the county manager.
Ms. Storm, did you catch that? Okay, Mr. Hanna, you're up, and Greg Schoenbachler is on deck.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you again today. I appreciate the fact that there are members of the public here that have been to some of the Ag Advisory Committee meetings that I'm a member of. I'm not here as a...
You state your name and where you reside in the county?
Joe Hanna, East Olympia.
Thank you.
Again, I'm not here as, in my role as a member of your Ag Advisory Committee. I'm here as an independent citizen. First off, in short, because you heard it from me last week and you've gotten emails from me in regards to it, I do support the reappointment of Richard McNamara, our chair. Not only was he elected as chair, he's now in his second term, that he ran unopposed and was elected unanimously by the committee. Next, I want to go on to that I'm disappointed. Last week after the meeting, I called to your office and requested a meeting, telephonic or in person, whichever was the easiest for you. And I heard nothing back from staff or yourselves. I don't know if it's just you heard enough from me already or what, but the respect that I deserve would at least say they're not available to meet with you from staff. Next, I started into it last week and my time was out, so I want to talk about the loss of ag ground in this county. I gave you a number last week that was accurate. It's the same number that we hear on the committee over and over again about the loss of ag ground in this county. And I don't know, did any of you take the opportunity or have staff take the opportunity to see if that's still there? Beautiful farm? I guess not. But you do have a program that is usable, the purchase of development rights. I've dug into that a little bit, into the county code related to it, and I found that unknown to me, after serving on the committee for a number of years, is that the Ag Advisory Committee is the oversight for that program. We have repeatedly asked staff, we've repeatedly asked the Wazoo Extension agent about this program and been told basically that it's not funded, so it doesn't exist. But according to the county code, the Ag Advisory Committee is required, at least annually, to hold a meeting related to that. Again, many years on the committee, and I've never heard of that before until I actually dug into it. Purchase of development rights allows a farmer to create a new commodity. In that commodity, the value of their land, as opposed to throwing it out of agriculture and into development, could be moved. The development right can be moved from the farm to wherever you want within the limits of the map that prescribes where it can go to. That allows farms to stay farms in this county. If it's not funded, I would question why it isn't. It doesn't have to be the county buying the development rights. It can be a developer that wants to put more property or more units on a single piece of property. That does two things. As I said before, it creates a commodity for that farmer to keep farming the ground. It also opens up the opportunity for future farmers, because instead of that land being valued at thousands or tens of thousands of dollars an acre, that value of development has passed on. Now it's just farm ground. I've been looking for 4 years for additional property to farm in this county. It doesn't pencil out. So unless you do something about that, we're gonna lose more and more and more ag ground. Thank you.
Okay, it's Greg Schoebeller, followed by John Pettit.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Greg Schoebeller of Tenino, and I'm here today on behalf of the Thurston County Farm Bureau, which is a volunteer grassroots advocacy group for the support of agriculture and farmers alike. The Thurston County Farm Bureau is in support of reinstating Richard McNamara to the Agricultural Advisory Committee. We feel that Richard is an outstanding voice and advocate of agriculture and farmers and small family farms in the county, and we just urge your support to reappoint him. Thank you for your time.
Chair, could I clarify something with that speaker?
Go ahead.
About how many members do you think you have with the Thurston Farm Bureau?
Oh, thank you. So there's around 1,000, I believe, in
Okay.
Thurston, and 46,000 in the state.
Okay.
And it's also a federal agency as well, so we cover the entire nation.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Next is John Pettit, followed by Terry Stanley Ballard. Give us a chance to switch.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm John Pettit. I live in East Olympia. I have a couple different things I want to talk about, and I'm very appreciative to 4 minutes to do it. One of the things which I did want to bring up before I get into the main subject, which I have, is I'm not really sure why there needs to be another executive session regarding the OPMA and BoCC meetings. My concern is that I don't know of any particular actions that are currently pending over the commissioners, and I like open government. Now, if you have a particular litigation issue that's in front of you, that's one thing, but if you're just using it to close the door so the public can't watch the interaction in writing a new meeting ordinance, that would be inappropriate. Those are two different topics. The idea here for executive sessions is because there's litigation or potential litigation. I don't know of any. Perhaps somebody else has decided to take some direction on it. And once again, the entire agenda is executive session, which maybe this time would be appropriate because it is strictly a single item element. The main thing that I came to talk to you today about is I made a nice report, at least I thought it was a nice report, not everyone might think so, about the Thurston County Veterans Relief Fund. I hope you all got it. It was the purpose of this report as such is not to really chew on you guys too much about the performance of Thurston County, but it's really about we can do so much better than what we're doing. Okay, we can do so much better. And the best example, which was close by and easy for me to grab a hold of, was Kitsap County. Kitsap County, in this report here, you're going to see how Kitsap County, which actually has a smaller population than Thurston County, is managing to get twice the amount of benefits out to the veterans out there is what Thurston County is doing. And they're doing it at about half the cost of what the cost is being done in Thurston County. I think that there's also some important parts of this in which you'll take the time and go through the report that I submitted. There was one page I was really concerned about that you weren't going to be able to see. And so I made you all a great big copy. And this big copy here actually shows month by month, expense by expense that were benefits provided to veterans. What we usually get is a hidden door, nothing that actually discloses it to anybody. This is open government. What we have here is not open government or easily accessible to know what's really going on. Now, one of the reasons my comments had to do with this being the previous audit that was made was kind of a cover-up. And I'm going to address that very briefly. I'm a person that believes in policies and procedures. There are policies and procedures, and if they weren't followed specifically, then that means they weren't allowed. In the particular case of the expense for the Veteran Hub, I can't find it anywhere in the minutes, and I got a copy of all the minutes for the Veteran Advisory Board. I don't find anywhere where they approved it. And quite honestly, I think that when you make an excuse that, well, probably 21% of the people that go into a place might qualify, the Veteran Relief Fund is done by individuals making application, not just a general expense for a general group of people. So I would encourage you to take a good look at it. We want to see improvement in that fund to serve our veterans. I kind of worry that maybe staff doesn't care as much about veterans because even the Veteran Fund advisory people said they didn't really want to use funds that would be going to veterans for the hub. Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker is Terry Stanley Ballard. That's the last name I have on the sign-up sheet. We'll check the boardroom and then go to the Zoom after Mr. Ballard.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Terry Ballard. I'm a 35-year veteran, retired in 2012, and currently reside in Tanglewild, which is unincorporated Thurston County. It's funny that I retired in 2012, but in 2011, I started combating the Veterans Assistance Fund, and that's where I met Mr. Pettit. At least I want a little bit more than minutes. I'd like for something to be taken care of. What I'm here of today is on my on-site sewer system. On my on-site sewer system, in 2011, let me read you from something from the state. For example, fecal deposits in woodland area contribute much bacteria or unlikely to contribute bacteria into the creek. It infiltrates in dry, the stormwater infiltrates in dry and regional facility east of Carpenter Road. That would be where I live. And at least in Carpenter Road, and unlikely to reach the creek as they have no stormwater conveyance system to the creek. Meaning on Husky and Carpenter, there were 3 dry wells, but I found out there were 6, okay? And they installed more dry wells there. There is no contamination going into the Woodland Creek, but I am charged with a $40 fee on my taxes every year to test my septic, which has nothing to do with anything. In 2005 was the sunset clause to be renewed by 31 December 2017. Wow, that's a lot. That's a little bit after 2007, when you tried to incorporate all of Thurston County in this sham. Okay, and when that didn't work, I had one of the commissioners, and I won't mention that it was Bud Blake, follow me in the down in the elevator and says, just out of spite, he's going to renew that stormwater. That stormwater and my septic tank has nothing to do with anything. In 2011, 12, 13, and 14, Tanglewild had no contamination. Had no contamination. In 2017, 1 June, Lacey lied. Lacey said that I can hook up to their sewer system and all repairs will have to be per their code. Well, I brought this up to the commissioners and they just sat from the cheap seats in the bleachers because we shined on Lacey and a lot of people moved during that time. A lot of people moved. They didn't want to get hooked up. Okay, in 2019, a letter to Pettit claimed that, hey, what Mr. Ballard has been talking about is true, but your manager in open session said I was lying and I best watch it. Okay, I even have the math from that cause. Okay, on 25 March. The manager produced a letter that said I was right. Instead of 14%, it's less than 1%. I think it was 0.1% is the letter, but I'd have to go back to the letter, which I have. Okay, on 219, an extension was approved. Guess what? For a system that wasn't contaminating groundwater, wasn't contaminating drinking water, wasn't contaminating stormwater, but I continue to be charged on my taxes with a government that doesn't exist as far as the annual requirement to assess my septic tanks. Instead of just, I'd like to be in the minutes, and I'd like to get somebody to look into this matter. Okay, I have all the information. If you want the information, I got it. But I will also be giving this information to all of Tanglewild as well, because they're being cheated. And if you want to be part of that meeting, Just let me know. I know the time and the place. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else in the boardroom that didn't sign up initially that wants to provide testimony today?
Greg? No. Let me check the Zoom, sir.
Okay.
What I have in the Zoom meeting is Ms. Eleanor Verdon would like to provide public testimony this afternoon. If so, unmute yourself. You have 4 minutes. No, sir.
Okay.
Let me check the conference call. Good afternoon. For those members of the public who have joined us via conference call, if you would like to provide public testimony this afternoon, please unmute yourself, state your name, where you reside in the county. You have 4 minutes. None, sir.
Okay, thank you. We'll move to item 2 on this afternoon's agenda, the county manager's update.
I don't have any specific updates for you today, sir.
Okay, that's a standing item. Thank you. Then we'll go to item 3, which is the consent agenda. There is one item, 3A. Any requests from the board to pull that item or for any discussion regarding it?
No discussion on my part, sir.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion regarding consent item.
I would move to approve the consent item A and approve the voucher list for the week of April 12th, 2021 for a combined amount of $983,735.36.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Mejia,
Aye.
Commissioner Edwards,
Aye.
Commissioner Menzer,
Aye. Motion carries. Consent agenda item is approved. Go to item 4. Community Planning and Economic Development, setting a proposal to set a public hearing on emergency housing ordinance 15792. Leah Davis is here, and let's have this item introduced by the county manager.
Thank you, sir. For your consideration is to set a public hearing for May 25th, 2021 at 3 in the afternoon in this room. It's for you to receive public testimony before you consider taking an action on extending the renewal of the interim emergency housing ordinance in the unincorporated areas of Thurston County. The current interim regulation expires on June 9, 2021. And this particular proposal extends this ordinance until December 9th, 2021. Leah Davis is here to walk you through and give you additional details related to this item.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Leah Davis, Associate Planner with Community Planning, and thank you for your time today. So I am here to request the board set a public hearing for May 25th at 3 p.m. or soon thereafter to receive comment on the renewal of the interim emergency housing ordinance. The Board of Health declared homelessness in Thurston County a public health crisis in 2018. Partly in response to that, interim emergency housing ordinance 15792 was originally adopted June 25th, 2019. It was subsequently renewed in June and December of 2020. Each renewal is valid for 6 months and must be renewed by the county commissioners after a public hearing. If the ordinance is not renewed by June 9th of 2021, it will expire. Staff provided a board briefing of the interim emergency housing ordinance April 1st. If you recall, the interim ordinance allows an applicant, also known as a sponsoring agency or host, to request a waiver of some of the standards for temporary homeless encampments in the unincorporated county, as well as the urban growth areas of Tumwater, Lacey, and Olympia. The standards that can be waived by the director are generally not related to public health and safety, and they include limitations on size, maximum number of residents, parking standards, distance from a bus stop, right-of-way limitations, separation from other uses, keeping a log of residents, requiring residents to have ID, having a security tent, allowing visitors, maintaining a numbering system, and requiring liability insurance. The director does not have the option to waive the requirement for sanitary portable toilets, standards for structures to conform to building and fire safety codes, a requirement for the host to provide a code of conduct, and of camp residents to sign an agreement to abide by the code of conduct. Requirement of the sponsor to self-police and self-manage, and the director cannot waive the prohibition of alcohol, drugs, fighting, abuse, littering, or disruption of neighbors. If you set a public hearing, the draft documents will all be made available for the public to review on the Community Planning's website. The hearing notice will be published in the Olympian, and interested parties will be sent notice prior to the public hearing. Any comments received will be available for the commissioners. Following the hearing, the board will have the option to renew the interim ordinance or let it expire. I'm now happy to answer any questions.
Commissioner Mejia, any questions for Leah?
No questions on this matter. Thank you.
Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir. We've had numerous discussions about this topic. Thank you, Leah.
Thank you.
And this is, I think this was mid-2019 was when it was first adopted, and I think this would be our fourth renewal of this, because they go in 6-month increments. Is that right?
It's the third renewal, the fourth adoption, yes.
Okay, very good. Okay. Okay, is there a motion?
For the purposes of discussion, I would like to make a motion to set a public hearing for May 25th, 2021 at 3 p.m. or soon thereafter at the Thurston County Courthouse, room 280, building 1, to accept public comment on the renewal of ordinance 15792.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Further discussion?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Edwards.
My concern with this ordinance is that we need to provide services to these folks, and those services are only located in the urban core. And until we get individuals that are saddled with this issue, mental health treatment and addiction treatment, we are never going to get it under control. And we're going to need to mandate that to get ahead of this. And so I just don't feel that moving it into the unincorporated area of the county is the right decision at this time. Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Mejia?
Aye.
Commissioner Edwards?
Nay.
Commissioner Menzer?
Aye. Motion carries 2-1. Thank you, Leah.
Thank you.
Item 4B is also under Community Planning and Economic Development. It is a reappointment to Agricultural Advisory Committee.
Thank you, Commissioner. Under normal circumstances, any appointments to boards and commissions are done under consent agenda. And the board has requested for you to have an individual vote on the reappointment of Mr. Richard Mankemeyer to the Agriculture Advisory Committee as a farmer member, and the term will be from May 12, 2021 to May 12, 2023.
Okay, is there a motion on this item?
Yes, sir. I would move to reappoint Richard Mankemeyer to the Agricultural Advisory Committee as a farmer member for the term of May 12th, 2021 to May 12th, 2023.
I would second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Did you say yes?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Sorry.
So this issue is one that I've spent more time, I feel, than I needed to. And it's been very difficult. I've heard from both sides of the issue in regards to the reappointment of Mr. Mankemeyer. And I think, I went to the last Agriculture Advisory meeting. I was a little disappointed on how it ended. there was public comment and the person was not allowed to make public comment because there was a motion to close. I feel public comment is always important in any situation. We always need to allow public comment, especially if, you know, it's a part of government, and that's what I see. You know, it's an advisory board, but there still have to abide by certain rules. And I feel in turn, it's also the fault of the BoCC for not setting guidelines before this and on how the members should proceed. I, you know, would like for those guidelines, you know, in these advisory committees for there not to be any political overtone. And they have to abide by certain rules, either if it's Robert's rules or any other kind of rules, so that way people have the right to express themselves. They need to know about OPMA and whether they fall under that or not. And there really needs to be a guideline. And we really, I know that was talked about at the planning session, but there needs to be some guidelines, and that was apparent at the last advisory meeting where people were not allowed to make public comment.
Commissioner Edwards?
Yes, sir. I want to clarify something for the viewing public before I ask this question, though. Oftentimes I'm asked, well, didn't you guys talk about this? And a lot of the public, they just don't know that even though there's three of us and we work here in the same office oftentimes, that we never get a chance to talk unless it's on the agenda and part of what we're dealing with at that point in time and advertise 24 hours ahead of time and such. So I just want to ask my seatmate something, because I got almost 40 correspondence from individuals through emails or phone calls, and they were directed to me, and I don't know if my seatmates got those same correspondence or not. Did you get a bunch, both of you get a bunch of correspondence that came in? Oh.
Yes, I got correspondence for and against.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'm disappointed I didn't get the against ones. I mean, so that's what makes me ask. All the ones I got were for, and there was about, I want to say there was 37 of them that I got. So that's what made me wonder if we're all getting the same thing, because I had heard a comment, Commissioner, from you at another discussion one time. Anyway, so that's why I asked that question. So I'm not going to go into the numbers, but the Farm Bureau itself has about 1,000 people it's representing just here in Thurston County. And the committee has reelected Richard McNamara once or twice, okay, as twice. And so I know there can always be differences of opinion, but I think that we're well served by our volunteer committee that is led by Mr. McNamara. So that's kind of where I'm at on this.
Okay, well, my position has nothing to do with Commissioner Mejia's comments about a recent meeting or process or procedure. I think there are issues there that we'll work through. Not personal, I've said it over and over and over again. My position is based entirely on findings of this. At the time that I took office, right about that time, early 2019, 2 members of the Thurston Conservation District that also were members of the Agricultural Advisory Committee were removed for malfeasance after I think it was a multi-day trial with live witnesses. It's taken us a couple of years to unravel the damage done to the Thurston Conservation District and get it functioning properly. And I don't know if it's right or wrong, but when that is extremely unusual that something like that would happen, and that state would have to come in to our conservation district and remove individuals. And in the wake of that, I think the community found it astonishing that this board reappointed that one of the people that had just been removed. So astonishing that we were written up on the front page of the Olympian. I've never seen a reappointment to a community committee garner front page news of the Olympian, but that's what happened. So much astonishment that when the second, and Mr. Nankemeyer was the first one to come up, and the second one came up a few months later, and Commissioner Hutchings changed his vote, and we did not reappoint on a 2-to-1 basis the second individual. So that's really, I still, 2 years have passed, and I understand that, maybe time heals old wounds, whatnot, but I just feel it's inappropriate for the board to reappoint someone under those circumstances. Again, it's nothing about Mr. Nankemeyer. He knows a lot about farming. I can tell you that. There's procedural issues. I'm sure we could work through them, but I just don't feel it's appropriate. The community does not expect that this board would reappoint someone under those very unusual circumstances. And I would make the same decision 10 times out of 10 about 10 different individuals. Has nothing specifically to do with Mr. Nankemeyer. But the record's clear, the findings have been made, the reappointment is inappropriate, and I oppose it. So at this point, I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Mejia?
Aye.
Commissioner Edwards?
Aye.
Commissioner Menzer?
Nay. Motion carries 2-to-1. Mr. Nankemeyer is reappointed. We'll move to item 5 on today's agenda, which is the standing items under County Manager, starting with Commissioner reports on board work sessions, community events, committee meetings, etc. We'll start with Commissioner Mejia.
I have nothing to report at this time. From what I've reported on Thursday.
Okay, Commissioner Edwards.
Just real quickly, the Thurston County Fire Commissioners meeting, the Capital Land Trust virtual conservation breakfast. I think I was there with my seatmates, virtually that is. And the EMS Council on Wednesday, EMS Council virtual executive seminar last night. And again, I think my seatmates maybe were there. And lots of constituent calls and emails about ag business and virus activity. So that was my week. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yeah, I had some overlap with that. Community Land Trust, Capital Land Trust event, EMS executive seminar, emergency Earth Day events on April 22nd, and the Climate Steering Committee met yesterday. The Finance Committee met yesterday. The Legislative Steering Committee for WASAC met Friday. Among other things. So that's kind of the highlights of my last week. So with that, we'll go to the County Manager's reviewing of our combined schedule.
Thank you, Commissioner. Let me walk you through your combined schedule for this upcoming week. This is where at least 2 commissioners will be present. You may have individual appointments on your individual calendars. Those will not be part of my report. Nothing for the rest of this afternoon after you close this meeting. Moving on to Wednesday, April 28th, 11:30, you have been invited to participate on the construction boot camp graduation, and that is going to be located on the Lacey Market space at 4220 6th Avenue Southeast, Lacey, Washington. At 2 in the afternoon, tomorrow, Wednesday, April 28th, at 2 in the afternoon, you have a briefing related to the transportation impact fee study. 4 in the afternoon, we have the Regional Housing Council. And at 6:30 in the afternoon, you have invited to participate on the League of Women's Voters, a virtual public forum. It is related to local government panel. Thursday, April 29, at 9 in the morning, you have a budget work session. Follow at 10 in the morning with a briefing related to the WIRA 13 and 14 adoption. 11 a.m., you have budget amendment number 1 work session. That's a continuation of the first meeting that you had last week. 1 in the afternoon, April 29, you have a briefing related to the water and sewer utility code updates. At 2 in the afternoon, you have a briefing related to bridge weight restrictions. And at 3 in the afternoon, you have an executive session related to the board meetings. Continue the conversation on that. Friday, April 30th, nothing, you combine the schedule. Moving on to Monday, May 3rd, you have a 3 in the afternoon, the Thurston County Opioid Response Task Force. And then you will move into Tuesday, May 4th at 9 in the morning during the agenda setting, where you will be reviewing the agenda for that afternoon, as well as the agenda of the Board of County Commissioners for the upcoming week. Thank you.
Okay, anything else for the good of the order before we adjourn?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. We are adjourned. Oh, no, yeah, we are adjourned.
Thank you.